Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another premiere draft of Dominaria United Alchemy. This is basically normal Dominaria United, but there is one Alchemy card in each pack. This pack's Alchemy card, not very good. Trove Mage here, need a bunch of artifacts in your library for this to be able to draw one of them. So generally not a card I pretty much ever take in this format. The artifacts just aren't great. Stuff like Vanquisher's Axe. That being said, as it comes to the just Dominaria United cards in this pack's pretty good. We've got Techova, Steward of Tides, which is a massive win condition. This card is not asking a lot from you to win the game. It just wants you to have 7 lands. Just have 6 lands on board on turn 7. Slam this down and then play your 7th land for turn. And if your opponent does not remove Techova almost immediately, you are going to win that game. She's pretty easy to cast as well. You do have to be green at the core of your deck, but with green at the core of your deck, even if you're not playing blue, she's pretty easy to splash in. Really, really good card. Prayer of Binding is the next best card here. Very good, efficient removal spell, but Techova has been such a powerful win condition that I'm just going to scoop her up. Pack 1, pick 1. So pick 2, there's nothing that's a really easy follow-up to Techova. We have Rona's Vortex, which is solid removal if we are green, blue, and black. That's probably what I'm going to take here. I think it's a bit better than Essence Scatter, but this is another very solid card in the format. There's just a lot of creatures with good enter the battlefield effects and a lot of good late game creatures where a 2-mana counterspell can be really valuable. There's also Elas Ilkor as probably the strongest card in the pack, but it's in kind of the polar opposite direction of Techova in white and black here, and this isn't the kind of card that we can really splash into a domain deck for good value, because this card's pretty specific to like a black-white token strategy, a deck that's going to have a lot of creatures and stuff, unlike the domain decks really will, so not really going to end up in the same deck as Techova. Our Alchemy card here is interesting, it's fun, but I don't think it's the greatest thing ever. It's a 2-mana 2/2 Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, target player reveals all cards in their hands. You choose a card in their hand, exile it, and make it a 5/3, a 4-mana 5/3 that attacks each turn instead. In Limited, very rarely is that going to be worse than whatever you're exiling, so doesn't seem the greatest thing ever. Pick 3 now. We have a Coral Colony if we want to be the villains today, but I don't really want to be the defender villains. We've got a Sunbathing Root Wallow, though, which is great in any domain archetype. It gives you a 2-mana creature to trade off against the more aggressive decks. That also turns into a win condition later in the game once you've got that extra mana to spend on the activated ability. So Sunbathing Root Wallow, great card. I like to pick this thing up early if I'm trying to head in the domain direction. Another sweet option is Shadow Prophecy, kind of the dig through time, quote unquote, for the domain strategy, letting you dig 5 cards deep and putting 2 into your hand at instant speed if you have good domain lands, but I'm going to go with the Root Wallow here. Very, very good card. Even if we're just blue-green. Now we have Sprouting Goblin, incredible card for domain archetypes. 3 mana for a 2/2 that lets you search for any land card with a basic land type, so that includes those dual lands. Super good for the archetype. No Alchemy cards here. The strongest cards are Sprouting Goblin, Take Up the Shield for white aggro, and maybe Zur? I don't know, Zur's very narrow. There aren't a lot of great enchantments in the set. Sprouting Goblin's easily the number 1 there, though, and the easy number 1 here is Bortuk Bone Rattle. This is a huge, huge, huge value play that can also be a win condition in these domain strategies. A 6-mana 4/4 that returns a creature from your grave to the battlefield is just a ridiculously good rate in Limited, and if you have powerful, cheap creatures like Techova to bring back, Bortuk just becomes a straight-up win condition as well. Bortuk is absurd. Easily the best card in this pack, and it's competing with other great cards like Frostfist Strider and Contaminated Aquifer. Okay, we have another Sunbathing Root Wallow, Phyrexian Rager. Good lord, we've got some good stuff getting passed to us here. Tangled Islet, Phyrexian Rager, and Sunbathing Root Wallow. The awesome choices here, in my opinion. Maybe push a little more in the black direction. Green-black at the core with this Phyrexian Rager. Root Wallow is really good too, though, and we're definitely green at the core, but Rager is a 6/6 value play. I'll go for the Phyrexian Rager. Okay, pretty much nothing in this pack. Zaro Janen's okay, but doesn't end up being the strongest thing ever in domain archetypes, because sure, you're going to put a counter on all your creatures, but domain archetypes tend to not have as many creatures as most aggro archetypes. It's between that and like Tolarian Geyser, which is really good in the tempo decks. Not so sure it's great in Domain, it's just fine. I'm just going to take Czar. Okay, Sunlit Marsh seems good here, but there's also Rona's Vortex this late. That's super sick. Darrygaz's Whelp is really good if you can get 2 copies of it. Then when you kick this card, it'll seek out the other copy from your deck and make them both 3/2 flyers. Which is absurd. But it's got to be Sunlit Marsh or the Great Removal, the Rona's Vortex here. I'll actually go for the Rona's Vortex. Really want to make sure I've got some great interaction here that's been lacking in some of my recent decks. Phyrexian Espionage is a great value play. That's about it going on in this pack. Essence Scatter Wield. Blue looks like an incredible place to be. Kind of wish I took the Sunbathing Root Walla over the Rager, because now it's looking like blue is just wide open. Oh yeah, Coral Colony Wield. There's a Pixie Illusionist if we have really bad mana fixing, which right now we do. I didn't take any dual lands yet. So we'll take Illusionist because I'm not doing a Defender's deck here. Don't want to be the villain today. Take a Voda Sea Scavenger. Fine little way to set up your next draw. A little 3-mana creature that scries. When it hits the board, Soaring Drake's fine. Tide Turner's very filler. Okay, negate to the sideboard. Pack 2, pick 1. We've got Urge, Spawn of Turg. If I get more into black, this card is pretty phenomenal. They are making Surveil a keyword, so now's a great time to learn it if you haven't seen Surveil before, which is look at the top card of your library, you may put it into your graveyard. Turns out they're going to make it an evergreen keyword now. So the name for looking at the top and putting it in the grave if you want is Surveil forever now. It's just scry, but you can scry the card into the graveyard essentially. So yeah, Urge surveils every turn to set up your draws and becomes a really big creature late game, and an early game it's just a big blocker. Can also gain you a bunch of life. There's dual lands, which I should really be taking, but I'm going to go Urg. We'll go for the dual landless Domain deck. That sounds fun. Terra Sunder's exceptional removal. It's even better than Cut Down in Limited, because in Limited it's more important that you can your removal can hit anything than that your removal is like 1 mana. But these are both really good. Unless it's like a 5 mana sorcery or something like that, the cost of the removal isn't incredibly relevant. But being an instant speed card is pretty relevant. Exiling is relevant, and being able to hit any target is relevant, so I prefer Terra Sunder to Cut Down. Urborg Repossession is another sick card here. Incredible late game play to bring back a Techiovan and an Urg, or a Bortuk and a Root Wall or something like that. Really, really good card later, but we're going to go for Terra Sunder for now. That pack as a whole was just exceptional. Sprouting Goblin's looking a little bit awkward in here. Don't know if that's actually going to make it. We're kind of just Sultai, which is pretty lucky here, because that means that it won't be the end of the world that we don't have that many dual lands. Because honestly, all of our Domain cards are still strong if we just have Domain of 3 with cards like Bortuk, Bone Rattle, and Sunbathing Root Walla. So we can just play green, blue, and black sources. We get another Root Walla here. Terror is really good, but I don't think it's great for this deck as compared to Root Walla. Urg's going to be a bit hard to cast, so we're probably not treating Urg as a 3-mana play. More of like a 5 or 6 drop as we wait for that second black source, but I think it still makes the cut for now. It's like a very nice Sultai deck so far. Okay. People have jumped in headfirst to the Domain strategies because we're seeing no duels. That being said, one of the awkward aspects of this format that I'm really not a fan of is the dual land distribution is incredibly random in the packs. You can open a pack with like 4 dual lands and then open 2 of them with 0. So, bit hard to read 100% if the dual lands are getting taken super highly or if the packs just don't have them. But I digress. This pack's very easily a Micromancer. This card's incredibly powerful when you have 2 copies of Rona's Vortex, just a 1-mana removal spell. So we can tutor it up with Micromancer. It is going to cost us 4 to actually remove something with it, but the important part is that we can search it out of our library with Micromancer, which is incredibly, incredibly good. Makes this card a super, super good deal. Okay. This pack is garbage. There's a Gaia's Might, and that's it. Oh no, there's a Roto's Vortex. Never mind, this pack's incredible. Everything else in the pack is not great, though. Some white aggro deck gets a Captain's Call, somebody else gets a Warhorse, and that's kind of it. Gaia's Might. But I'll take a Rona's Vortex. I was just blind to the Vortex. Is green the splash here? Wait a second. Run that double black card. What if green's the splash and we're blue-black? That's a possibility to consider as the pack moves on and we get cards like Tribute to Urborg still. I'll take the Tribute to Urborg here. Sojourner's another great option, but actually really nice instant sorcery count right now. Add a Tribute to Urborg. A lot of great removal. A lot of good instants and sorceries. But we can be some blue-black control deck with a green splash for like Bone Rattle and Techova and Urg. Alright, Haunted Mire. This is a very easy Haunted Mire. The only card it's really competing with is a Gaia's Might. Not a huge fan of Relic of Legends unless I'm really, really desperate for mana fixing. And just being 3 colors here, I'm not that desperate, especially when I already have one Illusionist. And I'd be taking that mana fixing over a dual land. Pick 8. Gibbering Barricade, Timely Interference. Got a pretty good deck for caring about a high instant sorcery count. Maybe I throw the Interference in here. I don't know. Very filler. I'll take the Barricade in case I need more blockers. Not sure either of those cards is going to make the cut in the end. Another Haunted Mire's pretty beautiful. If this Necromass were a Tolarian Terror, I'd be pretty tempted, because we can get a lot of instants in our grave, but creature's a little harder for us. We'll take the Haunted Mire. We have a lot of creatures as well, but not quite as easy for those to consistently go into your grave, because obviously every time you cast an instant, you've already put one into your grave. Whereas with creatures, they can just be sitting there blocking all day long and not dying like a Barricade. I'm going to take Urborg Repossession here. This gives us more options with what we tutor off of Micromancer, and it's an incredible late game play, so easy Urborg Repossession. We're really getting paid off for that Micromancer. That is going to be an incredible option in our deck. I don't really want to play 2 Sea Scavengers, but I'm not so sure Shadow Prophecy is going to be great in here. We'll take it anyway. It is an option. I'm not going to play any of these cards. Maybe a Mana Worker. Maybe a Mana Worker. Our mana is pretty rough. Helps with the green splash. We could take an Urtai Scorn because we have a ton of instants here, so it should be kind of easy to hold up that counter spell. And Tide Pool Turtle, get in the sideboard where you belong, my sad friend. Oof. Open up Namada, Primeval Ward, and a Bomb Rare in our colors. Don't mind if I do. If that weren't in here, we could play around with Vesuvan Mist, which is a pretty fun one. You get to bounce a card and conjure a duplicate into your hand, so bounce your opponent's biggest threat and get a copy of it into your hand for later. Or bounce your own card, right? Yeah, you can bounce your own card with it as well, which is cool. So that's pretty cute. But Namada's just ridiculous, so we'll take the Namada. We'd like to wheel a Phyrexian Rager or a Tolarian Terror or a Vesuvan Mist. Radiant Grove is fine. Fine Shaper Prodigy is fine. Choking Miasma is fine. Miasma really good against the white aggro decks. Really bad against other domain decks. So it can be a pivotal card in aggro matchups, and then a devastatingly bad draw in domain matchups. So Miasma's a bit coin flippy for me, but it is one of the strongest cards in the pack, and I might take it. I think I'm just going to take Radiant Grove, though, and just up domain a tiny bit. Get these Root Wallas and Vortex to be slightly stronger. More consistent. Oh my god, we get to play with Slimefoot Thallid Transplant. Whenever a swamp or forest enters the battlefield under your control, draft a card from Slimefoot Thallid Transplant's spellbook. Ridiculous card. Imagine a 2-mana 2/2 that said landfall draw a card. that would be a completely busted, nearly unbeatable magic card, and that's essentially what Slimefoot is. The cards that we're drawing are all non-lands, so if I really need to draw a land off of my landfall trigger, that's rough. But other than that, like, we're drawing consistent, like, creatures of our choice out of this spellbook, and some of them are like late game bombs like Verdant Embrace and Verdant Force. Slimefoot's easily the pick, and that card is so strong that we want to put in work to running as many forests and swamps in this deck as possible, meaning we want to be green-black at the core and splash the blue again. So now we want to cut down on blue cards if we can, so that almost every land in the deck is a forest or swamp. And another incredible alchemy card here now, the Wandering Treefolk, is probably what I'm going to take. It is a 2-mana 2/3, and it lets us seek creatures at random from our deck as an activated ability later in the game, so really good mana sink. Super powerful card for when you're flooding out. Phyrexian Rager is also phenomenal. Impulse is great, Vohar is great, Magnagoth Sentry is solid. Really good pack yet again. Oh my god, now I'm going to take a Tangled Islet here. This is going to give us another dual land to help fix us, and it's going to give us a land that provides a blue mana while being a forest to trigger Slimefoot, which is really, really good. It's between that and Root Wall, and it's definitely going to be the Islet. Wingmantle Chaplain for the villain of this draft pod. But for us, there's a Phyrexian Rager. We're seeing a lot of Phyrexian Ragers flying around in this pack. We did pass one or two already, and we'll take this one, I guess. Ooh, things have gone so incredibly well in this final pack here. Take a Sunlit Marsh now for more domain. Another Sunlit Marsh versus an Impulse. Take the Marsh over the Impulse. Impulse is really good with like scatter and stuff, but I'm going to cut really low on blue if I can. Just run blue for the removal and stuff. Pick 9 Phyrexian Rager. Absolutely beautiful. We also wield the Vesuvan Mist, but again, now with Slimefoot, we're trying to be as close to strictly Golgari as possible. So I'm going to make every pick that pushes us in that direction. Choking Miasma is now significantly worse in our deck because we just took a ton of 2 toughness creatures. But I guess it's just 2 Root Walls and 3 Ragers, that's it. So 5 total that die to the Miasma. Might still run it. Because when you kick it, you are saving 1 creature from dying to it, which is good. Probably not playing another Barricade. It feels like I'm supposed to take this Outrider, but I have no red sources right now. It just feels wrong to be passing somebody a pick 12 Miria's Outrider. I don't know if I'll be splashing in Vohar, but Vohar is quite good. This is crazy. This last pack was nuts. Absolutely nuts. A last pick Impulse as well. Well, those were some powerful, powerful packs we opened up there. I'm sure everybody had some really awkward choices like that where it's like, oh my god, everything in here is so good. I'm just passing straight up gas. Just fuel for the fire here. Incredible stuff from the last pack. So I think what we're turning our deck into is green-black, splash a little bit of blue, which means I want to drop Urtai's Scorn, Espionage the Scatter. I kind of want to make the blue splash just for the win condition that is Tachiova, and the Micromancer Rona's Vortex combo, because that is incredibly powerful. The Micromancer with triple Rona's Vortex and an Urborg Repossession, very, very, very good. Now we only need to cut one more card out of the deck to have it be complete. What's our creature count sitting at? 16 creatures. It's fine for Necromass. It's not great. Because we don't have any self-mill. I guess we have the 1 Shadow Prophecy to work with that. And we might be cutting the Choking Miasma again. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures that die to Choking Miasma if I don't kick it. And I think my matchup against aggressive strategies already looks pretty good because, I mean, 5 very efficient removal spells. Yeah, cut Choking Miasma here, and then we don't have a card that's just dead against the Domain archetype, and we still have plenty removal against aggro decks. This deck looks phenomenal. Putting a little work to this mana base here, make sure that's perfect, but this is definitely what we're rolling with. We have 5 blue sources right now for our 5 blue cards. We also have a Mana Worker. It's probably good enough. If I have good counts on green and black, we'll just ship it like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green sources, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 black sources. That looks about right. 13 black cards, 9 green, 5 blue. We do have the Urg that requires double black on turn 3. The only card in our deck that requires double green is a card that we're not going to cast until we have 7 lands. 6 lands on board and 1 in hand. So we can really wait for the second green source. So I think those counts seem pretty accurate to me. Maybe we could drop 1 island here to add another swamp or another forest. That would help with the Slimefoot, because right now I have 4 lands in the deck that don't trigger Slimefoot. Not a lot. And I guess all of our blue spells are cards we don't need to cast till turn 4 or later. And with 4 blue sources in the deck, that would be 1 out of every 10 cards, which means we draw a 7 card opening hand, and then we draw 3 cards by turn 4, even if we're on the play. So we'd be hitting 1 blue source on average by the time we need it. Because all our blue cards, again, 4 mana or more. Even if we drop down to 4, we're on average hitting a blue source turn 3 or turn 4 at 1 out of 10 sources. And that's not counting Mana Worker, which helps on occasion. Yeah, I think we can cut 1 for another swamp or forest, just so we have more ways to trigger Slimefoot. Slimefoot just 100% always wins the game if it doesn't die. I want to go even green-black, so I know I can always cast my 2-drops. Or do I want to really just go very high on black for Urg? I'll just go really high on black. 7 green sources is still, like, for this deck, because we don't have any green mana fixing. It's not like green is a massively important color, it's just in here. I mean, it is the secondary color of the deck. It is an important color, but it's not like one of the things that I usually do when I'm building my decks is if I have a bunch of mana fixing in green, then I'll be like, okay, we're definitely playing like 10 green sources, because if we hit the green mana, we can use the green mana to get the other colors of mana. This isn't a deck that can do that. There's no green card in this deck that helps hit other colors, but there are black cards that do that. Phyrexian Ragers help a tiny bit because they dig us further through our deck, so closer to the land that we need. And Shadow Prophecy and Urg Spawn of Turg are the cards that really help do that. Shadow Prophecy in particular, because we actually get to dig multiple cards deep, 2 or 3 cards deep, looking for the land. Actually, up to 4 cards deep with these 2 white lands if we're really lucky. And then Urg Spawn of Turg, of course, surveilling and setting up our draws, getting us towards the lands we need. So yeah, I'm going to go really high on black sources and go to 9 black, 7 green for blue, and that'll be the mana base, and that'll be the deck. Alright, here we have a look at the final build of today's deck. This is a really, really sick deck. We started in green-blue, looking to be some kind of domain-y thing with Tachiova as the first kind of bomb that we took in the draft. Obviously, that's going to be a huge late-game win condition, but by the end of the draft, we've pivoted into like this green-black, just like Golgari deck at the core, splashing in a little bit of blue for that Tachiova and some other good synergies. The general deck idea here is to dig through our deck with some good value plays like Phyrexian Ragers that draw us extra cards, the Gibbering Barricades we can sack creatures to draw cards, we've got like Shadow Prophecy that digs pretty far through the deck, and Urg Spawn of Turg that sets up our draws. We're going to be doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Wandering Treefolk as well, a really good value play. So we can win games off of general just value plays by drawing more cards than our opponents, but the other thing that all of that card draw, all of that digging through our deck really helps us do is hit our really impactful, really powerful bombs, of which we have several. We have Slimefoot Thallid Transplant, letting us draw a fungus out of Slimefoot's spellbook every time we play a land, which is absolutely absurd. A 2-mana 2/2 that just has landfall, draw a card would be super busted, and that's basically what Slimefoot is. We've also got Namada, Primeval Warden, the original sick Golgari bomb in the format, making it so whenever our opponent's creatures die, we are getting 1/1 Saprolings and being a 3/4 body with reach, being really hard to attack into. So that's another bomb in the deck. And the final bombs, we have Tachiova, which takes over the game really quickly when we start playing lands in the late game and beating our opponent down with them, and Bortuk Bone Rattle, which with a decent amount of domain lands in this deck, we will often have 3 or 4 as the domain on average, meaning that we can pretty much pick up any bomb in the deck. We can pick up Tachyova from our grave if it's already died. We can pick up Urg from our grave if it's died. We can pick up Slimefoot from our grave if it's died. And on occasion, if we have the 4 lands, we can pick up a Namata. So that's the deck idea. We're drawing a decent amount of cards, a lot of good value plays, and just multiple bombs that just take over the game and win really quickly. The other thing we have that's a pretty huge synergy is the Micromancer. With 3 Ronas of Vortex and an Urborg Repossession, Micromancer is a really good value play as well that consistently draws us into removal when we need it, or Graveyard Recursion when we need it. So if I turn to a Slimefoot, ideally I'm going to play Slimefoot on turn 3, so I know I draft at least 1 card off of it. But if I turn 3 a Slimefoot and then they immediately kill it after that, then turn 4 I could Micromancer into my Urborg Repossession and just get it right back. So Micromancer being able to pick up either Rona's Vortex, just perfect removal, or Urborg Repossession for Graveyard Recursion, huge synergy there and going to be a very powerful flexible card. I am very excited for this deck, and we'll see how it does as we head into the gameplay. Here we are in game 1. This hand looks pretty excellent to me. We have a turn 3 Urg Spawn of Turg. We have a turn 2 Tree Folk. And then our late game win condition is Tachyova. We've also got a removal spell as soon as we hit a blue source. And we drew into another one, Tribute to Urborg. So we don't even need to wait for the island to cast removal here. Sprouting Goblin from our opponent unkicked. Could play just a 2/3 body to block that all day, which I think is what I'll do here. Not gonna blow the Tribute to Urborg immediately. Wandering Treefolk is a powerful card later in the game, but I'm pretty sure against a blue-red deck, we're gonna have a better late game and be able to win the game there, so I'd like to try to get them to spend all of their combat tricks and removal as early as possible. Slimefoot's a pretty ridiculous draw, I'm just gonna go for it here. So we have 2 really good draws that we could hit. Ooh, Spore Mound's pretty huge here. We've got 4 lands already. Yeah, we'll go for Spore Mound. We have 2 really good draws that we could hit right now, which is Urborg Repossession and Micromancer, because Micromancer hits the Urborg Repossession. And that'll make sure, so even if Slimefoot dies, we can still go for that Slimefoot win. And of course get back the Wandering Treefolk, which is also doing great work. Sprout Swarm's pretty good here. Spore Crawler's also good. 4 mana. I can tribute to Urborg and play a 2-drop. Which would be Fungal Plots, which doesn't seem very good. Don't have any blue source. Probably just take Spore Swarm and pass. Although Urg does seem solid to play out here. Yeah, I'd like to set up my draws. Make sure I'm hitting lands, hopefully hitting blue sources. Alright, well, if Opponent wants to throw a Lightning Strike at Urg, they can do that. Nope, just play a Hurler Cyclops. Get this Gibbering Barricade out of the way. We do hit a Haunted Mire. Hit another card from Slimefoot. Verdant Force. If I can survive, that's gonna win the game, and the only other options like a 4-mana 2/3 or a second Spore Mound, so... Desperately just trying to survive. Do quite need that blue source. All I have that I can cast is Spore Swarm or Tribute to Urborg, so... They're both instant speed, so we just hold them both up. This is not ideal. I probably Spore Swarm and Chump here. I don't think I want to throw Slimefoot and a bunch of 1/1s under the Cyclops. Okay, land, 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 land. That's not a land. Mill that thing. There is a land. 2 mana away now from Verdant Force. 1 island away from Tachyova. And fungal plots is actually looking kind of okay now. Gain life, draw a card. And we've milled some creatures. We've got 3 in grave. The Deathbloom Thalad's pretty good at blocking. We're going to tribute to Urborg. I think I'm going to go fungal plots here. And then I go tribute to Urborg the Talus Lookout. This is why I'm not going Spore Mound this turn. I didn't go Spore Mound land because I'm going to just get rid of this flyer. Okay, shoot my face rather than a Saproling. Okay. And as an aggro play. Now we play the fungal plots. Now, as I'm chump blocking, I get to gain life and draw a card, but I do have to chump block with 2 1/1s instead of just 1. Alright, opponent's keeping it aggro here, sacrificing lands to draw more cards, just find more ways to get some damage in. Which is why I really like the fungal plots here. It's mainly the life gain. Life gain plus card draw seems pretty valuable to me. I'm going to have to sacrifice both of these to gain a life draw card anyway. So we'll double block. Gain 2, draw a card. Fires of Victory, the Slimefoot. Sure, Slimefoot's kind of done its job by now. Yep. Oh my god. There's only 1 blue card left in our deck. We'll see if we hit it. That would be wild. There it is! The final blue card. Oh, we didn't hit a land off of Draw Surveil there. This is rough stuff, mana-wise. Spore Mound doesn't even do all that much here. We're not playing a land this turn anyway. We might be cutting a swamp, putting that island back in. Pretty results-oriented thinking, but when the results are this bad... Oh my god, opponent has infinite flyers in their deck. Pretty devastatingly bad. See if they want to sack something to stop me from gaining 2 and drawing a card this turn. Sack the Sprouting Goblin here. I think I'd rather kill Hurler Cyclops than gain 2, draw a card. So if they respond by trying to shoot one of the Saplings, I'll gain the life. And that seems really bad for them. If they go for that. I just lose a Barricade now that I wouldn't have lost before. That's the only thing I lose. Okay, sack a land, draw a card. Yeah. I mean, this is super fine by me. I lose a Barricade to get them to lose one of their potentially important creatures here. It's the island. That's pretty huge. Obviously can't make any... can't make any of my lands creatures off Techiova here. But I can Spore Mound into Island, holding up a Rona's Vortex. Unkicked. But still a thing. I could Spore Mound into Haunted Mire, play the tapped land so I know I can Verdant Force next turn. But I think Tachiova next turn should be more than good enough. And this way I get 2 Saprolings again, because I get 1 from Spore Mound and 1 from Fungal Plots. Do take 5 in the sky. But then next turn I get to have Flying Blockers off Tachiova or cast Arona's Vortex on one of their flyers to put it on the bottom of their library. Spore Mound is good enough to not throw under the Cyclops bus here. Ooh, Bortuk? Bortuk for Slimefoot? Still dying in the sky. I need to start vortexing the flyers away. Joda's Codex. Cost my opponent a good bit of mana to use that. Ooh, Island's a good draw. Island is a great draw. Now I get to play Tachiova. Then I get to play Island. Make a Saproling and animate a Swamp. And I'm holding up Arona's Vortex. Incredible stuff. We're not blocking with Spore Mound, so send that thing in. Got triple Vortex. If something really bad happens, I can just cast an unkicked one here. I think I'm going to do the double block on Cyclops again. Because I'm going to end up chumping Cyclops with a 1/1 regardless. Alright, trade with the Lookout. Urg's getting a little bigger. I do have to worry about milling myself out a little bit, but I have ridiculous bomb power here. Kind of off of Tachiova alone. Now I have to worry a little more, but I can kill that. Battlewing Mystic, sure. All of their flyers that are left get blocked by a single 3/3 all day long. I'm going to Vortex that Coral Colony. I'm going to do it right now so they can't just like sack it to shoot something for 1. I think I pay like this. Okay. Now I get a Saproling and a 3/3 land. I can animate a Swamp again. And I have the mana up for another Rona's Vortex. I would have to tap my Flying Swamp to cast the kicked Vortex, but I do have the mana for it. Okay. have another kicked vortex after this, so let's go for it. Alright. Everything left on board we can easily block. I'm going to stop milling myself now, and we're just going to start trying to win the long game. I'll go for a Bortuck here, and if that gets Essence Scattered, that just means Verdant Force can resolve next turn. I don't know why on earth it wants to tap double blue. It's because it doesn't want to tap my dual lands. Never let Arena auto-tap in this format. Yeah. Rona's Vortex is the only thing I really want to hold up here. Again, if they scatter this, that just means Verdant Force resolves. No scatter, so here comes Slimefoot. Yeah, they're scooping it up. We are just landfalling all over the place now, and it's going to be nigh impossible for them to recover from that. This deck has an absurd late game, and we do get there eventually. Took us a while to get the blue source, but did certainly get there. So now is a turning point where we do have that option of putting in a 5th blue source. But you know, I am a master at crossing my fingers, so we're going to continue unedited as we head into Game 2. Here we are on the play in Game 2 with a beautiful hand, great value going on here. Draw a card, draw 2 cards, tutor up a card. 6 stuff in this hand. Colt Conscript, turn 1 from our opponent. That could be a problem. We now have all 3 of our colors thanks to this Haunted Mire. And Shadow Prophecy digs 3 cards deep. We'll take 2. We are against blue-black here, down to 18. We've got an Urg, Spawn of Turg now. No scatter one time, fingers crossed. Ah, yes, and scatter. Could have went for Rager instead, but I actually don't even know what's that much better right now. Rager's a very good card too. So Rager is probably the play to play around Essence Scatter. But again, I don't even know if Rager is that much weaker than Urg. And it looks like they probably just have 2. Otherwise, why are they not doing anything turn 3? Their hand could also just be bad, but we'll see. I'm definitely not going to go untapped land Micromancer here. Micromancer is definitely better than Phyrexian Rager, because it draws us a card without losing a life, and it's a 3/3 instead of a 2/2. And we can probably Micromancer Urborg Reclamation this game, because so far we don't need any removal. But we'll see. Keep the Micromancer for later, but so far it's looking like an Urborg Repossession and get back our Urg and something else. Or one of the Ragers. But if our opponent plays something super scary, we'll get our Rona's Vortex instead. Molten Tributary, opponent plays a blue-red land, so they are at least Grixis. Again, could be duels just to up domain for some cards like Shadow Prophecy. It could also be for some splashes. Bortuck is awesome. I love that card. Probably just on Rager again, because I still don't know for sure 100% what I want to Micromancer. A little scared about my life total. Pretty low for facing against a single 2/1. That's what happens when we're raging around all day. Mana Worker was a beautiful draw, getting us a 1/3 onto the board to block their 2/1 very well. And they do have a Shadow Prophecy that they're making better with their Molten Tributary. So they're digging 3 cards deep for whatever card they choose. Geothermal Bog gets milled. Good bit of red duels there. Probably at least splashing for a Lightning Strike or something. They have 6 cards in their hand, 4 mana on board, and a 2-1. We have a 2-2 and a 1-3, but we're down to 12. Yeah, that's 3 red dual lands now. 2 tributaries and 1 bog was milled. They've got to be splashing something in for red, or they wouldn't have drafted the red duels so highly, most likely. Opponent hasn't even really thought about countering any of these Ragers, so I feel like they probably don't have a counter. And whichever one of these gets countered, it's going to be bad for us. Be a little more sad if Bone Rattle gets countered, but if Bone Rattle gets countered, that means the next turn I get a Micromancer for Reclamation. And if I hit a land drop, I get to immediately cast the Reclamation to pick up Bone Rattle and Urg. And then Bone Rattle the Rager on a later turn. Yeah, if Bone Rattle gets countered, it is really not the end of the world. Because then it's less likely Micromancer gets countered, and Micromancer gets to bring it back. And it doesn't get countered. I think I take Urg here, but Rager is another great option. Maybe their hand is just Wraths because they're just not playing creatures, but I don't know what Wrath they could have. Oh, -4/-4 to everybody? 3 land types? Yeah, it'd be -4/-4, so at least Urg survives that Wrath. If that's what they're playing too. That's the Black Wrath, -X, where X is the number of land types they have. X is 1 plus the number of land types they have for that card. The other Wrath that they could have would be 2 damage to every creature, which doesn't really do anything here. So it's gotta be drag from the bottom. The Domain Wrath effect. Soon matter here. And even then with Micromancer into Reclamation, it doesn't hit that bad. Or Repossession. I keep forgetting. Is it Urborg Reclamation or Urborg Repossession? I think it's Urborg Repossession. It's an Urborg thing. Aether Channeler is their card. They get to bounce one of our cards or draw a card or make a 1/1 flyer. They're going to draw a card here. I'll keep that Rager. 1 angry boy. Couple 2/1s, they can double block, kill Bone Rattle. I think I just offer trades on board. Start getting a little aggro here. Playing a little more bold now that I have multiple blockers and the biggest board state by quite a bit. And a removal spell in hand. Potentially 2 if I need to Micromancer into 1. Oh, Slimefoot, Thallid Transplant. I don't like playing that until the turn that I'm going to get my landfall trigger off of it. So I'm just going to hold up the Shadow Prophecy. We're actually kind of digging for lands with it. Mill any islands we hit and draw any swamps and forests. Battlefly Swarm. It's a little annoying. Blocks anything as a Death Toucher. Gonna kill one of our good attackers. Not a fan of that. Namada, Wandering Tree, Forest, and Swamp. These are incredible cards. I want a Forest or Swamp so bad for Slimefoot. I mean, we're definitely taking Namada. The question is, do we take the Tree Folk or just a land here? I'll take the Tree Folk. If I don't hit a land, I can still just play Namada. I'm going to keep that. I'm not gonna ditch removal spells. Okay. 6 mana here is enough to play Namata and the Tree Folk. Can't really do anything with the Vortex. Battlefly Storm trades into Bone Rattle. That's not ideal. It's not horrible. Conscript, though, if I attack all, they trade there, and then that trades, and Conscript comes right back anyway. Yeah, Battlefly Storm is actually kind of being obnoxious enough to just cast a Vortex on and play a Tree Folk this turn. Well, I guess if I played Namata first, that at least when the Battlefly Storm traded for Bone Rattle, it would get exiled instead of dying, which means the Conscript wouldn't come back. Maybe I should have factored that in. That the Conscript wouldn't come back if Namata resolved. So it would just be Bone Rattle for the Death Toucher, which isn't horrible. Because we have so much more to play here. And a Bone Rattle in our grave is not that bad when you consider that we can tutor for Urborg Repossession whenever with a Micromancer. This deck really showing off its power here, where we get to keep committing to the board but still having almost a full grip of plenty more powerful cards. So even if our opponent has a board wipe, it's not really going to matter. They do have the board wipe, but I don't think they're going to like what's coming next turn. Tap out for Knight of Dusk Shadow. They do not have Essence Scatter mana. There's a forest to go Slimefoot, Forest, Namata, and immediately have plenty more threats. Fungal Plots is pretty wonderful. That was pretty incredible last time. I think I'll take it again. Not gonna have great blocks for this Knight, which I'm not a huge fan of. Yeah, I'll just pass turn. But yeah, we've got a lot of expendable creatures in our grave, like Mana Worker, and a bunch of Ragers, Tree Folk as well. Definitely leave the Bortuck in there, and at least one of the Phyrexian Ragers, but... Wow, that is incredible. See what mode they want to put it on. They might immediately get a creature from a graveyard, like get our Bortuck and use our Bortuck against us. Nope, they're going to peek through our hand to make us discard Micromancer. That's fine. It's not ideal, but it's not horrible. Now they lose 3 life next turn. They do tutor anything out of their deck, which is very bad for us. Cruelty of Gix is an absurdly powerful card. Make us discard a card, then they search for the best card in their library and put it in their hand, and then they get the best creature out of either graveyard onto their board. But now they're tapped out and they do not have good blocks. Slimefoot, what do you got now? Verdant Embrace. I think so. I think that's what we want. I don't even know what I put it on, though, because they're all already huge targets. Why are you tapping my blue mana? Probably put it on Urg. Guess I'm straight up never blocking with Slimefoot, am I? Slimefoot doesn't have great attacks when they have mana up. They're just going to tutor for removal and shoot whatever I put this on. But I still get a 1/1 from it guaranteed, and I get extra damage this turn. think it's powerful than the other options that I chose, but maybe I should have just held Rona's Vortex up instead here. That could have been loose. We'll slap it on Urg. I think Urg's the least important of these three creatures. Did I pay an extra mana? Yeah, I paid an extra mana somehow. Oops. Wouldn't matter because I'm not going to play Fungal Plots instead of holding up Rona's Vortex. Could see an argument for attacking with Namada as well here, because then if they don't block at all, they're going to go down to 5 life, which means they'll go down to 2 after Cruelty of Gix hits. So it'd be really hard for them to choose not to block. But then I would just have a 2/2 and a 1/1 to block with, and that's it. It's probably enough with Rona's Vortex. And Rona's Vortex is one of the cards that only returns an opponent's card to its owner's hand, so we cannot save our Slimefoot from removal or our Namada from removal if that's what they're tutoring for here. They have a second board wipe effect. They could win this game off of that alone here. So they are down to 5 life now. Battlefly Swarm, sure. And then Writhing Necromass? 1 mana up isn't really enough for any removal. It could be like cut down, I guess, but they would use that before they pass turn. If that's what it is, just kill Slimefoot here before I can draft more cards off of it. So I'm guessing they're just holding up for Battlefly Swarm's ability. Definitely can't find lethal on board, so I just hold on to Vortex so I can permanently get rid of something. Barricade. I feel like I'm just going to play Fungal Plots if I draw into that. Perfect, a forest. They don't have mana up for an Essence Scatter right now. This would be the one time to cast the Verdant Force. Yeah, and then Fungal Plots with Verdant Embrace and a Verdant Force on board. I don't know what on earth they could get off this Cruelty of Gix, but don't think it can kill me. They get a Bortuck and get a couple creatures on board against a million Saplings for the rest of the game. I guess they can Bortuck into their card that bounces a creature. That would be pretty bad for me, because I'd lose my Verdant Force because they can bounce my Urg. So that'd be a little sad. I'd lose the Verdant Embrace. But I'm getting to a point here where I get to just go wide and attack with 5 more creatures than they have on board. That's our plan with the double Verdant. Okay, Bortuck. Oh, when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, return a creature card. I always forget that. That little trigger there. I would have probably went for the same play. But yeah, it only happens if you cast it, return something from graveyard to the battlefield, so pretty happy they didn't technically cast Bone Rattle. So they just get a 4/4. That was still the biggest creature in any graveyard. But maybe Mana Sink from the Tree Folk or the bounce from the Aether Channeler would have been a little better. But I would have made the same play because I did not realize either that Vortuck would not have triggered. I need to be a tiny bit worried about getting hit in the sky, but I do have a 3/4 reach at least, and I'm going to have life gain off of fungal plots as long as I don't mill myself out with it. Get a bunch of 1/1s. Herborg Repossession. I can't repossess my my Vortuck anymore, which is sad, but that's still a powerful draw. So 4, 5, 6, 7 attackers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blockers. We don't get in for anything. Oh. Attack with Verdant Force and then just repossess it and recast it. Or I can just play Fungal Plots, get a million 1/1s and kill them next turn. Let's go for the kill next turn. I just play a Fungal Plots now. I hold up Barona's Vortex if anything nasty happens. And then during their end step, I make a ton of 1/1s. And then attack in with a board that has at least 5 more creatures than them. Opponent's in the think tank here, but I think it's pretty over. Our next swing should be the lethal one. 7 blockers. 12 attackers. We already have 5 more attackers and they have blockers, so even without making more 1/1s from Fungal Plots, we have lethal on board. Buff the Tattered Apparition. And we're very safe to just take this, because even if they're trying to do some kind of trick to do a bunch of extra damage and hit us for 9, we can sacrifice all these saplings to gain a ton of life. If it ends up being too much. So I'm ready and willing to take all this damage. Alright, they're just going to do as much as they can, put us down to 3, but they are tapped out, and now we have lethal on board. We'll just make extra sure, get as many 1/1s as we can, and then attack with everybody. Thank you, Erg. Very cool. Did that just bug it out? My internet's good. Yeah, my internet's good. I can check Twitter, YouTube, everything. Arena's not good right now. Because I don't know what happened off of that surveil. I looked at the top card and it didn't show me anything. I just clicked done. It's not bringing a rope up for my opponent who has no hourglasses left. It says I have none left. I thought I had some. I'm going to reboot Arena here. I will file for reimbursement if I lose this game, because I'm literally lethal on board right now. I have no idea what is going on here. With the surveil just not showing up. What the what? I've been rewarded with a pack. What? Okay, I don't know what happened there, but I had lethal on board, so I'm assuming that my opponent conceded and Arena just didn't register that for me or something like that. I do not know, but that is 2-0 now as we head into game 3. Alright, here we are, game 3 on the play. Turn 2 Root Wallet, turn 3 Rager. That late game Urborg repossession looking nasty. Viashino Branch Rider, turn 1 from our opponent, getting aggressive with it. Got a turn 3 Gibbering Barricade now, so we can have a nice 2-4 blocker. Really slow down this red deck. They are red and green. Electrostatic Infantry, very, very threatening card, particularly in the blue-red decks. Those are the decks that really have a lot of efficient combat tricks, removal spells like Lightning Strike, bounce spells like Tolarian Geyser that can really stack up the counters on this thing super fast. But red-green has a lot of good combat tricks as well, like Gaia's Might, Furious Bellow, Colossal Growth. So Electrostatic Infantry still can be a very threatening card. But looks like they don't have good enough tricks to get through our 2-4 barricade yet. And they're just going to pass. Play a tap land here and drop the Rager. Get that tap land out of the way, be ready to cast this Rona's Vortex in the future when we need it. And I'm feeling pretty good about this game. We just want to make this game take as long as possible so we can dig for our big bombs that take over the game like they did in the last two. And Wandering Treefolk is a great card to help do that. It's going to let us seek extra creatures out of our deck at random. So, see what we draw into off the Treefolk. It's also an instant speed ability, so it lets us hold up our removal spell, and if we don't cast it, choose to seek a creature instead. So great stuff there. I'm going to play the island before the forest in case we hit the slime foot. Keep the forests and swamps in our hand for as late as possible. Don't quite have the mana to hold up this Rona's Vortex and play the Treefolk. I think I'm still going to play the Treefolk for now. Take one hit from this Magnagoth Sentry. Down to 14. Well, I could go for the double block here, maybe get a trick out of their hand. Barricade and Rager aren't that important, and we have Repossession. I was going to say, on board this is great, and if they ruin it with a combat trick like Furious Bellow, I can sack one of these and draw another card out of this interaction. So I don't even fall that far behind to a combat trick. Yep, and I can counter their life gain from that by sacking the barricade to itself. Sure. Really nice that it was a removal spell they had to cast there too, not even just a combat trick. Ooh, Namata. Namata feels like quite a solid play to go for here. Because again, the worst case scenario leads into an Urborg repossession. We don't have the mana to cast Namata and do anything else though, except an unkicked Vortex or an unkicked repossession. I do have a Shadow Prophecy to hold up. They can't attack into this Root Walla. If I have mana up for it, I might. I'm actually going to hold on to Namada here. There's threaten a 5/5 blocking Root Walla. So if we Namada when we have 7 mana, we get to play that and Shadow Prophecy, or that and Repossession. Another trick from our opponent, so we can say goodbye to our Root Walla. This is a solid auto tap, so we'll go with that. I'll go for the block first. And then we activate the ability, so if they have another lightning strike or something, at least we stopped the damage here. Well, so far, we've just killed a sentry. Okay. Killed a sentry for free, but now there's a Defiler of Vigor to worry about, so we are likely going to Vortex that. Probably Vortex that and Shadow Prophecy with my remaining 3 mana. Because I'd like to hold Repossession until Namada dies. Branch Rider trades into anything when they dump a bunch of mana into it. We're at the point I'm pretty fine with Root Walla trading off. Again, I get more value if I do it later, but I'm not going to spend any mana into it. They have a board wipe here then. Let's kill everybody anyway. Well, they may have just forgot. Sunlit Marsh with Techyova here. Activate a swamp. We still have the mana for a Root Walla. Start poking them for 3 a turn in the sky, and we've got a clock going. There's a 5 mana deal 5 damage to each creature. The only thing I could think of here, but it looks like they may have just forgotten their activated ability on Branch Rider to make the trade into Root Walla last turn. Okay. Played safe, I got plenty creatures, so we'll trade off a Root Walla. Got a Tribute now. Play Namada, so as they trump block, we're getting 1/1s. Could have a trick to kill Techyova. Doesn't feel good to attack with anybody else because of that. I could Tribute against a trick, but it might not be good enough. I think you're like pretty wildly safe here, but not much could go wrong if we play it safe. It's going to take a lot for our opponent to turn things around. So let's try to not give them those opportunities to kill Techyova off just an average trick like a Furious Bellow or something. Alright, now they're tapped out. Can't kill Mossbeard Ancient, though. I do not have enough instants in grave. I've got 2, so this is -4/-4. Don't have anything good to pick up off Repossession. I mean, I have Rager plus Root Wall is fine. But again, I like saving this for when one of our bombs dies. Great draw here. More flyers is wonderful. And we just keep doing our thing. Sit behind our wall of dorks and kill Kill our opponent with flying lands. Excuse me, I'm gonna have to get a drink after this game. Goblin Morale Sergeant is coming in, crewing the Mossbeard Ancient. Enlisting it, really. Most likely. We'll just tribute to Urborg. I actually should have tributed pre-combat because that is going to put another Mossbeard Ancient into their deck. Forgot about that card's ability entirely. Yep, I should have killed this thing sooner, but I'll kill it now. When our opponent moved to their combat step, that was the time. Kill the Goblin Morale Sergeant. Rabid Bite, Tachiova, or Namada here. Now that they know we've spent our instant speed removal, Career of Binding. What are they targeting? Oh, they don't have to target till it enters the battlefield. Targeting Namada, it looks like. Oh, target Tachiova so the lands aren't flying anymore. Yeah, that's pretty good. They only have one blocker now, though, which is good for us. We get to activate our Tree Folk, see what we draw into. They have a single 2/3 to block with, so we probably just attack with everybody. Glowstone Infusion, okay. Goodbye Root Walla as well. And we drew into Slimefoot. They still have a massive lead on board, and drawing into Slimefoot is obnoxious. And got the Verdant Embrace off the Slimefoot. Make a Vigilant Sapling producer here. They're out of cards in hand, so we can send both in. They block Namada to have them bounce off each other and then take 5. Oh, I should have sacked a Sapling. Always forget the flavor text on Namada. You get to buff Namada by sacking Saplings. Say, we're going to have plenty more Saplings to go. Plus, I was going to sack one and get another when the infantry died. Playing a bit sloppy here, but our deck is just so absurd, it's not going to matter. Yeah, I could have definitely gotten the kill on the infantry. Rada's Firebrand. Pretty scary if they get to play that early in the game. Get a huge attack out of it, but at this point, looks like it's going to be too late for them. Send in the Mossbeard Ancient. Means Tree Folk gets in freely. We probably just kill them, right? They go block, block, take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They are exactly dead if they attack like this. Okay, so no blocks, and then we know they're dead. Block, block, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. Cool. Just in case I'm horrible at math, we'll get another card off Slimefoot before it dies, potentially, if we don't kill our opponent. Just take the Spore Swarm so we can go wide again and make sure we have a super lethal board state after this if I don't kill them this turn, but I am fairly certain 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8, plus 2 is 10 here. And that's if they block the 2 biggest creatures. Could be missing an ability on Firebrand, but I'm fairly certain this just buffs itself and can shut off a blocker every turn it attacks. And that is what it does. So we are going to be 3-0 to start it off. Just some ridiculous, ridiculous stuff from this deck. So many bombs, so many good value plays. Excellent, excellent stuff from the Mushroom Kingdom deck. Here we are in game 4 with the worst hand we've drawn so far. The Marsh is just in here for domain mainly. But despite the bad mana, Double Rager is very tempting. We even have barricades. We have plenty of stuff we know we can cast in this hand. And the Ragers draw us those extra cards to go deeper through the library towards our next mana sources. So I think I'm going to keep this and cross my fingers here. Ooh, Tachova's a bit of a sketchy draw here. We are all 3 mana sources away from that. Swamp even sketchier than the Tachova. Every black source we draw from this point on is going to be pretty much completely redundant. But now is the time we start drawing our cards, see if we can get out of this mana situation. Our opponent's on blue, black, and white, just naturally no dual lands, yet perfect 3 different colors of mana in the first 3 plays. Kind of on polar opposite ends of the spectrum here. Well, stuck on lands here, stuck on turn 3. Shadow Prophecy lets me draw 2 cards instead of just 1. Kind of think I want to do that, do it before I play a land in case I hit a tapped land. Or are they main decking Negate? We might get got by Negate here. As I say, counterspell-wise, I think it would be way more likely we get hit by a scatter than Negate. And it looks like maybe not. I mean, they might have a Negate and then just didn't want to use it there because it didn't seem like it would do much for them. So the awkward part here is I am going to have to discard 1 card to hand size, but that's okay. I've got an extra barricade. And it makes the repossession fueled more early, or the bone rattle. Actually, you know what I could have done there? No, I was supposed to go for the big brain play. Oh, I lined it all up perfectly. I could have discarded Tachiova because I need another green and blue source. We're still very far from casting Tachiova, but we're only 1 land away from playing Bortuk, and Bortuk already has enough domain to return Tachiova. So we could have just big brained to set up that Tachiova, but we'll just keep playing Ragers and hoping for the correct lands here. For now, I was definitely supposed to discard Tachiova, because then even worst case scenario, and I hit the green and blues, I've got the repossession. So Tachiova is actually just stronger in our graveyard than she is in our hand. Alright, Rager resolves. We do get the blue. Now we just need 1 more green source, and we've got a lot of those. Shouldn't have let Auto Tapper do that. Once again, never let Auto Tapper do anything in this format. We should have kept our 1 green source up so we could play Root Walla no matter what land we drew there. Wow, opponent's having really bad mana issues, and we have gotten out of all of our mana issues here, because that is the 2nd green source off of that Haunted Mire. Gonna hold up Tribute here because Barricade really doesn't affect the game. We don't need to block at all. We just need to hit them. They finally found the 4th land, but it is probably too late. Here's Tachiova. Hasting land. We hit them a little harder by tapping the swamp and all of our other lands to buff Root Walla. We hit them for 1 more damage total if I do that instead of attacking with swamp, but I like attacking with swamp better because I get to hold up Tribute and it only costs 1 less damage. Vesuvan Mist. Okay. It's a lot more damage if they're going to bounce Root Walla. Can't afford to recast it, so we pass. And they're just going to scoop them up. They just hit some really rough mana there. That was kind of a greedy keep from them, so both of us kept a greedy keep, but we got rewarded a lot sooner. But they had a double blue card in their hand. They kept blue, black, white. Vortex and Mist, though, those are good cards to have had in there. I have no idea what the rest was. No idea what the rest was, but it looks like kind of just no action off of just 3 mana. So that's the big thing there is, like, even though our hand was like mono-colored by turn 3, we knew no matter what our draws were, we had 3 castable, very solid plays. 2 really solid ones. The double Rager on turn 3, no matter what, because we already had 3 black sources in hand. It was a pretty good way to start a game, and we even had a barricade. If I hit Stone Cold Nothing for a while, we had another play there, so... Our keep was a little less greedy than our opponents there, it looks like. And we also just got completely rewarded, and our opponent got completely punished. So 4-0 it is. We are at the break-even point, essentially. We're down 100 gems, but we are up everything that we drafted and 3 more packs. So really nice place to be no matter what happens. But if we get just 1 more win, we start heading into the money. So let's see if we can't keep it up as we head into Game 5. Here we are in Game 5, and I think this hand is even worse than the last one. And I'm not going to get that greedy, even though it has a Bortuk and a Techiova. This hand has nothing that I can guarantee that I'm doing in the early game whatsoever. Even if I draw perfect mana, I'm playing a Techiova before I can animate everything. Yeah, this is definitely a mulligan here. This hand is significantly better. Turn 3 Slimefoot's going to be nuts. Probably get rid of the Necromass. It'll be quite a while before that does much. But yeah, as I said before, I don't love the idea of just slamming Slimefoot down on turn 2. I would much rather guarantee that I draw at least 1 card off of Slimefoot's spellbook and just wait another turn. Get all our tap lands out of the way as well by doing this. So this way I don't just tap out for Slimefoot, then my opponent goes Mountain Lightning Strike before I can play a land. That would be awful. So now they can't do that. Now I have to at least get 1 landfall before they can kill it. Rhizome Lurcher is a pretty powerful late game spell, but so is Spore Mound going wide. They're both really good. I don't think it's Migration. Probably Spore Mound here. Opponent is scrying here. They're on a domain strategy. Lots of multicolored over there, blue, green, and red. At minimum, they drop a Magnagoth Sentry. I can exile that with a Terra Sunder. But it's not that scary. I don't really think I need to. Let's see what we get from Slimefoot here. Fungal Plots, Sapphire. Fungal Plots has been really, really nice very late game, but I don't really think I need late game plays right now. I just want some more stuff to slam down this turn, which I guess is just Urg. I'd play Urg before I'd play Sapphire right now, I think. Yeah, Fungal Plot Spore Mound is pretty good combo. We'll just keep setting up just Fungal Plots every game. Just draft the same cards from the spellbook every single game. If my opponent attacks into this Urg, then I'm just going to let it in. Now that they've tapped out for Micromancer, I will block here. Shore Up? Okay, well we know they have a Shore Up then. Keep that in mind. They can give a creature +1/+1 hexproof and untap it if they have a blue source up. So the best time to use our removal is when they don't have a blue source up. That is unfortunate, not drawing a land there. Land is valuable enough with Slimefoot's ability that I think I use the Shadow Prophecy to try to find it. And again, Auto Tapper being a bit of a goof. I'm going to want a green and 1 up because that's my only 2 mana play. So we want one of these green sources untapped, so we want to tap like this. Instead of leaving a Sunlit Marsh up, we leave a Radiant Grove up. Oh no. Okay, well, we take Urborg Repossession, and like Tree Folk. Well, that was really bad. I have to discard the hand size too. Yikes. Okay. We barricade. $15 cards deep. We've got 4 lands. Not great. I'm going to block here at this point. I'll get them to spend removal on Urg instead of Slimefoot. No removal, just play a Territorial Morrow. They do not have the mana for their Shore Up, so I think I need to just exile that right now. Our next turn plan is to Spore Mound and play a land. Spore Swarm seems better than Verdant Force here because I already win the late game by just drawing all these cards off Slimefoot. So let's just get more ways to definitely survive the early game. Repossess a Root Wallet to gain some life here, but I'm still at 14. I'm just keeping that for if Slimefoot dies. I have to keep taking the Magnagoth damage because of that Shore Up in their hand. Down 10 now. Miria's Outrider, that is really hurtful. We're down to 7. Really painful. That is not a forest or swamp, but it is still a land. Which puts us at 1 mana away from Tachiova popping off. Lets us place Spore Mound into a Saproling. And start trying to chump every turn. Another Outrider would be brutal from our opponent. Gotta kind of just hope they don't have that. But also Fungal Plots into Spore Swarm as to play this turn. I think I'm on Spore Mound play this island. But I don't love it. Might be at the point of letting Urg die. Oh, it's their own Slimefoot? Okay. Well, we definitely lose then. Most likely lose then. It was our big plan, outvalue them throughout the game, but we're out of removal now. And they can just Slimefoot against our Slimefoot. 4 life here, I feel like I have to stop all of this. They get to Shore Up and kill Urg, or they get to Shore Up and not lose their Micromancer. I feel like they Shore Up and kill Urg. No Shore Up whatsoever. They're going to cast another creature then instead? Yep, Spore Crawler. They do still have the mana for Shore Up, but I guess they're holding it for blocks or against removal, so I can't kill their Slimefoot. There's the Haunted Mire. That one missed land drop ended up being so brutal here. Off the Shadow Prophecy, digging and not finding a land. I think if we played things just like a turn faster, we could be stabilizing at this point, but I don't think we get there. 6 mana, we Fungal Plot Spore Swarm most likely. I don't think it's Tachiova. Saproling Migration's pretty big if we get a Fungal Plots down onto the board. So 1 mana 3/3 there. It's still probably Migration. Luckily, our opponent only seems to have green. They have blue and red in their deck, so they are less likely to keep triggering Slimefoot than we are. Okay. Spore Swarm. Negate main deck. Brutal. Hate to see it. We don't have any remotely good blocks here. I think that's the best we have. Because of their Shore Up. This way they can't kill the Urg. But we're not getting rid of a creature on their board if we do this. I can do this, and I'm probably getting rid of the Spore Crawler, because I think they would rather shore up the Outrider than the Crawler to kill Urg, but then I lose both my creatures anyway, so either way it ends up with them having 2 more creatures on board than I do. Either I have 1 and they have 3, or I have none and they have... Actually, no, I have 1 and they have 4, or I have 1 and they have... I don't know. Either I have 1 creature and they have 4 on board, or I have 0 creatures and they have 3 on board. So I don't really think it matters too much either way. I think I'd rather keep Urg so I can set up my next draw if it's gonna help, potentially. Swamp. 3, 4, 6, 7. 7 mana. Okay, so we play Tachyovan. We have 4 mana to play around with. We can play the Swamp and have a 3/3. We have a 0/5, a 3/3, and another 3/3, as well as 4 mana to do whatever with. Sapling Migration costs 6 to kick it. I could go Swamp, kick Migration, play Tree Folk. Actually, maybe better than Tachyovan here. I can Repossession, kicked or unkicked. If I do it kicked, that's 3 mana. And then I'll have 5 to play around with, 2 to play Slimefoot, 1 play land, and then 3 for Rager. I can't have Tachyovan and Slimefoot trigger. I think I definitely want this land. Like, way more likely than not. Two mana for Slimefoot, 3 mana for Rage or something like that. Green, green, blue, Tachyovan, green, black, Slimefoot? Then I have a tapped land anyway. Alright, I need to do this now. What the heck? Okay, well, good enough. Good enough. Yeah. This is awkward because it'll be a tapped land, but this way I get a Tachyovan and a Slimefoot. Then I guess they have to chump. Migration might have just been better here. Gotta love the kicked repossession for nothing. I was supposed to pick up Spore Mound as well. That's what I wanted to do. Maybe I should have just unkicked and then played Tree Folk as well here. Or unkicked and then play Migration, anything like that. This looks like they just have lethal, if this is what they're doing here. Show me the lethal. They sure do. Alright, we were dead. Unless we migrationed. But we didn't know they had Gaia's Might to try to find lethal. If they didn't have Gaia's Might there, then they shore up the Slimefoot and Tachyovan trades for Slimefoot. Still in a pretty devastating position there regardless. Yeah, pretty rough game. 4-1 now. Alright, here we are now in game 6. Great hand. We've got a turn 3 Urg, spawn a Turg, and we have a mana work to make sure we actually have our blue source. So we can do as we please. Probably going to play the Urg on 3, so I can set up my draws and then Rager after that. Multiple Ragers. It's pretty nice. An eerie Soul Tender from our opponent. They do seem green-black at the core. They've got some self-mill. Well, they're very domainy. They've got an Urborg Battle Hymn as a red card, and they've also got an Elvish Hydromancer as a blue card. So we're just going to start slamming down Ragers all over the place. Did hit a land off the Rager, which is perfect. All value all day long. Our opponent's down to 3 cards in hand. We have 5. Feeling pretty good. Linebreaker Bailoff, that's fine. Can't exactly block that right now, but we can kick a Vortex on it, which is probably the play here. Yep, seems like the play. It's going to make our Tribute to Urborg better on future cards. Cool. Still take that land here. Do some more raging. Micromancer, that's a beautiful one. And a Radiant Grove. Opponent's doing pretty well on their mana base. They have every color but red. But they've only got 3 cards in hand to play around with. Again, we've got more value here. Nantuko Slicer turns that right around. Pretty busted alchemy card. Similar to a lot of the alchemy rares like Slimefoot, where they're just atrociously powerful and limited. Nantuko Slicer returns a card from each graveyard to their hand, so they get our Rona's Vortex, and they get their own mountain so that they have full domain. It's pretty obnoxious. There's Techiova. We are going to draw that Rona's Vortex as removal from our opponent. But I'm pretty sure it's still just the play regardless, because we'll get to keep the land as a creature. Even if it won't be a flyer. I think I'm going to attack here, because if they choose to Rona's Vortex Techiova right now, then it's unkicked and we'll still be able to just recast Techiova. Sure, it'll make it so the land's on the ground and it can get blocked, but then Techiova stays. So we're going to offer our opponent the opportunity to do that trick if they want to, and it looks like they don't. Really hate Nantuko Slicer plus Eerie Soul Tender. That's a pretty disgusting combo. The Soul Tender can bring back any creature from their graveyard when it's in their grave, so they could bring back the Slicer and then get 2 other cards back from grave. Slicer is just going to be pretty obnoxious to deal with. We're probably going to Micromancer and Vortex that thing so that they can't ever replay it from grave. But that is a card we really desperately want to keep them from chump blocking with. Necromancer is fine. Obviously not casting it right now, but fine for the future. Micromance for a Vortex. All their creatures have 2 or less toughness. I guess I could send in all the Ragers and stuff, but then they would block with Soul Tender and Slicer and get ready to start looping, exile the Soul Tender, bring the Slicer back, get more cards back from grave. Which is just atrociously bad for us. Yep, this is 100%. They just want these creatures to die. Pretty cool with Soul Tender dying, if Slicer is not also dead. They can get Hydromancer back. Oh, Soul Tender is a good card too. If they have Urborg Repossession in hand, we are just not going to have fun. It's 17 here. I think I'm just going to pray that they don't have Urborg Repossession, then I'm going to Vortex the Soul Tender instead. Yep, that's completely busted. Try to outrace them here, but they're at 19. At this point, I'm just going to go for it. I'm not going to win the long game against this pile. The Graveyard Recursion is just so good in this format. It's bonkers, especially this stupid Alchemy card. That's just Urborg Repossession on a stick. Talk about a broken magic card, and it will appear we've got a Slimefoot here. We've got our own broken magic card, but we don't have any swamps or forests to play with it. Oh, you know what's super... We just can't win this game. They can slice her with the repossession and just pick the repossession up because it doesn't even choose permanent specifically. Good lord. Yeah, I should have just stuck with my gut and just played slower and gone for Vortex on Slicer there. I made the play that was like, if they don't have repossession, this play's going to win the game. And then they had repossession, so we are not really winning, but they're also at 12, so we can still try to outrace them here. They killed my Slimefoot, right? Yeah, they did. I can get it back with our repossession. 1 mana to repossess, 5 for Necromass. I don't get to play it again this turn anyway. I'd rather give Urg power for now. Wandering Treefolk, sure. Just gonna keep repossessing Slicer every freaking turn. How wide do we go? Attack with everybody. 3 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I don't kill Slicer right now, they don't have a great repossession. But they can Hydromancer the Slicer, which is equally busted. I guess it's not kicked at least, but they do get another Tribute back, or another Rona's Vortex, or another Hurloon Battle Hymn. And they're just going to repossession immediately. And then Hydromancer Slicer for repossession. Keep this land now. That's a Verdant Force. We're milling out before our opponent. Okay. Repossession can't really bring anything back right now. They don't have any permanents in their grave. But they can keep attacking us with the Slicer. Block with Urg. I can kill the token copy. We gotta play the long game here and get this board really wide. So we need more swamps. I'd say pretty hard earlier. We could have stopped all of this nonsense if that Slicer was just on the bottom of their deck. That is a big Shadow Prophecy. Especially with Repossession in hand, they can return whatever gets milled. Sojourner and a Weatherseed Treaty for the creature and the permanent they can return. And we don't know what they took into their hand here, but it's probably pretty nasty if it's better than those. Coalition Construct. Okay. Should make them 4/3s. That's pretty fine. Urtai Resurrected is not fine. One of the better bombs in the format. Removal spell on a stick. Going to blow up our Slimefoot most likely. Blow up our Wandering Treefolk instead. They underestimate the amount of swamps and forests we have. I'm not going to mill myself at all anymore, and Rona's Vortex is a good draw. But we're playing the Verdant Force here. I don't want to draw more cards right now, but I do want to make more 1/1s to try to go wide. I don't really have any creatures in grave though. I think I'm still taking that, but we're just playing Verdant Force right now. Come on, let's get a wide board state. Let's get 12 more creatures than my opponent, shall we? We're actually tied when it comes to milling out right now. I mill out first because I draw before them. But now that they milled 5 off Shadow Prophecy... If I don't cast my Shadow Prophecy, then they'll mill first. It's going to be like a 4-hour-long draft video today. I hope you're all buckled up for this one. Pull out a Crystal Grotto from their deck. They now are officially milling out first. I don't know how we know these, but we do. Oh, because I put those on the bottom. Gonna get a Baloth and a Myria's Outrider. Okay. They've scryed this many cards to the bottom, which means these all suck. Oh wait, no, these are the Vine Walls. These are the Vine Walls' other 5 cards. Never mind. Okay, my turn. Get our Verdant Force trigger. Hi, Bortuk. That's a thing. Bortuk, a Wandering Treefolk. I don't really think I Shadow Prophecy. I don't really think I Fungal Plots. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 9. I need 23 creatures. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Need 8 more creatures now. 7 more if I Vortex something. Oh, this game of magic. Bone Rattle their Sojourner back to hand and cast that here. That's a card. It's a pretty tremendous attacker with all of these sapperlings. Niall. Got one reach creature. I guess I'm not attacking with Namad anymore. Never mind. Now I have 2 removal spells, so I can get rid of Slicer and Niall, which are the 2 things I need to get rid of to attack well. They could repossess Urtai though and then kill Namada. Oh wait, Namada makes it so anything they block with gets exiled anyway. So they can't have good things end up in their graveyard. Get in there, Namada. My tiny friend. My little tiny box. Yeah, all their stuff's getting exiled here. They can't repossess anything that dies in this combat. Okay, block with the token. Since that would die anyway. If they can't bring back anything that dies, maybe I should have just attacked all at this point. But then if I miscount, I just die. There's a lot of stuff going on here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 power. I get +2/+2 per sapperling. The cards perpetually get +1/+1, so even if I kill the construct, the things still have the +1/+1. We definitely exile the Soul Tender. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 power if I get rid of the 4 there. But if I do that, 1, 2, 3, 4, +8, that's 12. Bounce the token, I can kill all these. If I bounce the token, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can do +8/+8 for 12 toughness, and then I can bounce the token. Correct? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I guess we'll find out. And then I'm going to get all the saplings back because I've just killed a bunch of creatures. And thanks to Mana Worker, I could even sack another sapling here, but I don't need to. Two, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. All exiled, all giving me sapperlings. We've still got a Terra Sunder to hold up to use on their flyer now. Thanks to our salvaged Mana Worker. Maybe should have used that so they couldn't draw into a negate or a shore up. Should have just main phased it. Alright, they're just going to scoop them up. And I was going to say, we almost definitely have lethal now next attack. That game took way longer than it needed to. I think it probably would have worked out a lot better for me if I'd run a Vortexed the insect thing way earlier, because that thing can grind out a game with the best of them, the Nantuko Slicer, and that alongside with Urborg Repossession makes just getting into combat so messy. So Namada off the top was incredible for us. making it so we are exiling their creatures that they're blocking with was so just tremendously important there, because otherwise their Urborg repossession was going to get great value. Now, we did have more exile removal to exile the Slicer, even if we didn't draw into an Amada, so that I could attack it and the creatures would just die, but then they would get, you know, their repossession value, their Eerie Soul Tender value, and stuff like that. So I think I played that out pretty poorly, but just yet again, the bombs in our deck are just so dang good. We were just past some incredible stuff this draft. And it's going to lead us into a 5-win run at least as we head into round 7. Here we are, round 7, 5-1. We've got perfect mana here as well as our early game plays, so I'll just roll with it. Obviously don't have like a huge way to win the game right now, but that's not what you need to draw early game. This root wall is going to hit like a semi-truck soon enough. Ooh, could Rager this turn. That's tempting. I'm going to go for it. Essence Scatter maybe? 2 mana up from opponent. No Essence Scatter here. The Gibbering Barricade, our most filler main deck card. We've ended a lot of games with a lot of saplings out, so theoretically there's some positions where the Barricade can do some stuff, but haven't really ended up in those positions. Rather hit my opponent a bit here than get the Barricade out right now. Or then get my tap lands out right now. Still playing untapped lands, so I know they just can't block here. So we get 2 damage in, and then we still slam down our stuff. And Mana Worker doesn't really damage them either. Just a 1/3 body, so we'll play the more mana-intensive card. This looks like a full domain deck as well, probably. They're on blue, black, red, and white. I don't really need to cast either of these. Let's just get Root Wall at a +4/+4, I guess. Rager for Rager is not a horrible trade. Probably should have just made that attack last turn too. Alright, well this must be a Lightning Strike or something. They force the pump and then cast the Lightning Strike. I was gonna Lightning Strike even if they didn't block Rager, so this doesn't really punish me. Vesuvan Mist is what it was. Okay. Getting their own Root Wall, it could be really good here if they hit a green source. Was it unkicked there? It was unkicked? Alright. I guess they did not have the mana yet to kick that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't have the mana for Necromass. Offer our trade again. Just to get that thing out of the way. It is out of the way. Here's the Mana Worker. That was not a good auto tap, but what are you going to do? Here's Root Wall. That was also not a good auto tap. We could have used Mana Worker to have Sunlight Marsh add the green so that I could hold up Tangled Islet, so even if something happened to salvage Mana Worker, I could be holding up Rona's Vortex. But now if Mana Worker dies, I don't have a Rona's Vortex up. Urborg Repossession for 1 Phyrexian Rager is not particularly exciting. Let's hit them for 1 and see if my Writhing Necromass gets countered, and then I've got a nice repossession later. It does not get countered. I could hold that Haunted Mire in case I top deck Tachiova, but I can't afford Tachiova. Oh wait, yeah I can because I have Mana Worker. I was going to say I only have double green or 1 green and 1 blue. Darygaz is scary. Even if I get rid of Darygaz, whatever face down card they have here is going to come out in a few turns, which is rough. Pretty sure I still get rid of Darygaz. I guess I could Bone Rattle and Vortex that back to their hand as my most aggressive line. I can also just attack with Necromass. I doubt they block. Then I Bone Rattle post-combat to have a bunch on board. Then I Vortex it next turn. I'm hitting for 6 if I just kill this here. Which can't possibly be a bad play. But again, it might be better to have just as much power on board as possible, so next turn is almost definitely lethal. Might be a little greedy. Oh. Okay, well if we just flat trade, then probably fine. Maybe they have their own Bortuck. I'll hold on to this land for now. If we hit Slimefoot or Tachyova, it'll be phenomenal. Whatever's under this egg must be incredible. They get to know what it is, right? I think our opponent knows what's under Darigaz. It's probably just stalling out till they can hit that. Ooh, another Vortex is perfect. That is very good here. Vortex that to the bottom, and thanks to Mana Worker, I'm still holding up another Vortex that I can kick by playing this land this turn. Should be pretty hard for opponent to recover, and they're not going to get their face down card this turn. They just have another Miria's Outrider style blocker, we kill that, and attack with everybody for lethal. Opponent in the think tank here. Pull of the Mist Moon does make it more likely than just about anything else that they can survive this turn's attack. Do get to draw a card off Barricade at least. And I can repossess a Bortuck and recast it next turn. And I still have unkicked Rona's Vortex if it's going to find lethal. I don't believe it is. Yeah, we don't have any way for extra damage. But it does hit them for 3. Probably better to save the Vortex for whatever's coming out of the egg. But again, yeah, if I Vortex now, I am putting them down to 2. We'll save it for whatever comes out of the egg. Alright, what is it? Immersturm Predator. It's actually not that bad. They can give it indestructible by sacking another creature. And it gets +1/+1 counters and exile stuff from graves every time it becomes tapped. That is not as bad as I thought it would be. That being said, our opponent is still in a very good position to stabilize. They have 5 more cards in hand and 2 blockers out now. So opponent could start taking the game away from us here. Sunbathing Root Walla. That is going to be it for now. There's Tachyova, but no lands to go alongside her, so I probably just slam down a Necromass. Attack with Bone Rattle. They block, sack a different creature to kill Bone Rattle here, but then I can Vortex that thing back to their hand. An attack with Bone Rattle seems good with Vortex in hand here, even unkicked. I probably should have just kept Necromass in hand for post-combat, so I could go for a full kicked Vortex in response to them sacking a creature here. But even unkicked is pretty devastating. I guess I could have stopped them from exiling something from my grave, but these don't really matter. If I Vortex before that ability went on the stack. Cool. So now if they want that back on board, they're going to have to tap more than half of their mana. Do want it back on board, so they only have 2 mana up here. Block, take 3. If I hit a land for Techyova, that's lethal on board, and we'll just go for it. Do hit a land for Techyova, so we're going for it. I can tell you that. If this goes disastrously for us, we can sack everything that ends up dying for no reason, to at least gain life and draw cards off of them from our Gibbering Barricade. This is 6 damage on board. You could have a Lightning Strike, so that it would no longer be lethal, but they would still have to make chump blocks and take 3. They do get to kill Bone Rattle here, though. They chump block Necromass, but kill Bone Rattle by sacking Tree Folk. So if the play is Lightning Strike here, or Bite Down, that works the same, then they go to 2 life, and I still kill the Tree Folk. And I get replacements for everything that dies here. See what we draw into before I sack Bone Rattle, because it might be something that I want to cast. Namata. I can't afford to cast that, so yeah, we sack Bone Rattle as well. And they're down to 2. They have 4 cards in their hand, all of the mana in the world, an untapped Immersturm Predator, and that's about it. They're at 2 life, so if Techyova doesn't die, any land drops are incredibly good, and they are just going to scoop them up. It's going to be 6-1 now for our Golgari, or our Sultai Good Stuff deck. It's really showing off the power of all of our different bombs here. We've won a lot of games off of Slimefoot, definitely won a couple games off Namata, and some games with Techyova on board, so everything in the deck really showing off to its best ability. We're going to be heading into the final boss now, but luckily for us, with only 1 loss under our belt, we've got 2 shots at getting a 7-win run with this sick deck. So we'll see how it does heading into the final boss. Here we are in the final boss, what could be the final game of Magic for today. We've got an excellent hand mana-wise, a turn 3 Phyrexian Rager, and a turn 4 Micromancer, meaning we've got great value plays to get it started as well. Very happy with how this hand looks. Opponent is going to start with a turn 2 Vine Soul Spider and start milling lands out of their deck. Slimefoot is looking real spicy here. I'm going to play the Swamp, so if I draw a Swamp or a Forest, I have the option of turn 3 Slimefoot instead of Phyrexian Rager, but as I've said before, I don't really like slamming down Slimefoot on an empty board. when I've already played my land for that turn, because if you play a Slimefoot and a land drop in the same turn, you can guarantee you're drawing at least one card out of it, even if your opponent has cheap removal. And since we don't have any more swamps or forests in hand, pretty easy Rager here. Opponent really setting up their deck here, getting rid of these lands so they are not likely to flood out. But now we have the 2/2 to try to stop the 3/2 Vine Soul Spider from hitting us anymore. Tail Swipe, that's really brutal, because that's going to be a lot of damage now. Not only are they killing our blocker, but they're getting an extra damage this turn from Vine Soul Spider. No attack from Illusionist, so they must need that for their main phase 2 spell. Need a black or a white mana, maybe their own Phyrexian Rager. They made it blue. Academy Lore Master. I can draw an additional spell. If I do, my spells cost 2 more. I have plenty of spells. That's actually really good here, because the opponent is like out of spells anyway, so they might as well draw extras every turn and just spend 2 additional. Wow. I am not gonna draw an additional here. I might just kill Lore Master and take 4. I have all kinds of 2/2s to trade into the Vine Soul Spider, but the Lore Master, drawing them extra cards, is sketchy. Down to 8 now. I don't love it, I'll be honest. Soaring Drake. I do like Namada here, but we haven't made our opponent play any removal. Oh wait, no we did. We got 1 removal spell out of their deck at least. 4 mana. Can't cast 2 spells here, I have too much blue mana. I can't play Slimefoot and Wandering Treefolk. Since I can't double spell no matter what, I just play the best single-handedly impactful spell, which is Namada, which means I have to play Marsh this turn without getting the Slimefoot value. We're in that mode where we're just desperately trying to survive a couple turns, and if we do, we've got big bombs. Opponent's got big bombs too, big ol' 6/6 Territorial Morrow, but that means no attacks for them this turn. Tear Asunder, now we get rid of Morrow with that. Probably just do it while they're tapped out here. This is a combat trick of some kind, but I can't afford to not block or I'll just die to the combat trick. If it does at least +2/+2. If it's Gaia's Might, it's +3/3. 6/7 puts me to 1 life. Wow, and anywhere I block, they get to kill Namada. I guess I just stop the most damage I can then. Gaia's Might kills Namada here. I think if it's Colossal Growth, I'm just dead. Okay, no, I go to 2, but I'm basically just dead because I can't make enough blockers here. I can Bone Rattle and have 2 blockers. I have a 4/4 to block the 3/2. I have an Namada to block Soaring Drake. Or Slimefoot and Micromancer for 2 blockers, but then there's nothing blocking in the sky yet. The only play is Bone Rattle into Namada. Pray they run out of things at some point. This Vine Soul Spider's done so much work. It's filtered so many lands out of their deck that they're just drawing straight gas. Which is brutal. I'm assuming they just top decked the trick to kill me now. Sure did. Brutal game there. Really good draws from opponent. Going to be 6-2 now. Alright. Alright, here we are in the final boss here, unfortunately on the draw again. So far, our opponent has another good aggressive curve. They can tempo us out of this game. But we've got some powerful cards in this hand. We do need to hit another black source for Urg, but we at least have Tribute to Urborg for early game removal. We've drawn pretty well mana-wise throughout this game, so if we get punished here, that's just kind of a balancing act. We'll see how we draw. Faith Bonder to start it off. Relatively aggressive play. We've drawn one of our Phyrexian Ragers, that's pretty sweet. Guaranteed turn 3 play now. That's a perfect target for our Tribute to Urborg. We're very happy to see that. Get that right out of here. Wandering Treefolk is the draw. I'd rather just Rager here and try to make sure I keep hitting lands every turn. We do have a land to play next turn now. Not a black source though, so Urg is still miles away. Nor a blue source for Techiova or Vortex. I am very willing to trade Rager into a combat trick, since it's got some value over here. Alright, just trying to bait some free damage out there, it looks like. Let's get a 2-4 down. Really have shields up, because if this game goes long, we're all but guaranteed to win off Tachiova Bortuk. So we'll do everything we can to make it take long. They're going to destroy Evil, our Barricade, which is nice. Gets that removal out of the way so it can't hit Urg later. Okay. Only thing I can play here is Treefolk, so we will. Pass the turn. Demolish Knight Counselor. We can block that pretty well. When it enlists creatures, it's going to make it so the next creature that enters their battlefield, or the next creature they cast, will enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. Pretty cool. Got the second swamp here, so we can Urg now. Also just seek off Treefolk, but I'd rather just Urg, I think. Make sure I've got all kinds of blockers all day long. They can enlist to the Knight Counselor and make it a 3/2, or enlist to the Faith Bonder and make it a 3/3. Either way, we can trade one creature into their attacker. And this is the better attack for us, because we get to trade the Phyrexian Rager into it instead of having to trade the Treefolk off. This is probably the better attack for our opponent as well, though, because they probably want a +1/+1 counter on their next creature spell. I'm pretty desperate for lands, but if I mill this and then hit a land, it probably would have just been better to cast this and then play the land that I draw off of it. So, I don't know. I don't know about that. Surveil. Sunbathing Root Walla. Not bad. Not bad at all. They're going to shore up to kill my Treefolk. See no blue spells from them. That could just be for domain. If I get shore-upped, I'll get shore-upped. No shore-up. Here's Sunbathing Root Walla. I've got 3 blue cards in hand. I probably do need to mill anything that isn't a blue source. Although any land gets Bortuk, so anything that isn't a land I probably have to mill at this point. Yep, so Barricade gets out of here. Another Root Walla. I can play Root Walla, or I could just use a Treefolk. I need to get this blue source fast, so I need to thin my deck out. Try to make it as close to nothing but blue sources as possible. So I'll just pass turn here. I'm threatening to activate Root Walla's ability and block their worm with mine. Well, block their worm with my Root Walla. And if we don't need to do that, we get to use Treefolk. Looks like we need to do that. I can't just take a million here. Yep, I'll take 1 and kill the worm. Unless they play a trick. There's a trick. Pretty devastating. A Llanowar Loam Speaker to follow it up so they can start attacking with a bunch of 3/3s. I was about to draw all my blue spells again without the blue source. When we do a Bortuck now, I could tutor the Rona's Vortex. I can go Bortuck for Micromancer. I guess I only have 3 domain right now because I don't have the blue source. If I had 4 domain, then I could use the Micromancer to tutor for the Vortex and then have all my blue spells again. That'd be pretty cute. Pretty sure because I can't Bortuck Micromancer unless I put it in my hand, I just grab the Rager. Dig for the blue source. Cross the fingers. There it is. Let's go. Just blocking everything at this point now that we're ready to take over the late game. Nice, looks like our opponent might be out of tricks if they just attack with a single 7/3. Would I rather trade 2 2/2s or 1 4/4 into that? I think 2 2/2s. Another Elfheim Worm, that is not ideal. Draws a lot of cards, but that's painful. I do have the mana to play Vortex and that. Alright. Probably what we're doing here. We're going to kick a Vortex on the bigger worm, block the other one, and then Shadow Prophecy in the end step. Take an amount of damage here. Can't really play around Shore Up, because if I tried to hit the worm there with Vortex, they still had the Loam Speaker untapped for blue mana if they have specifically Shore Up. I guess there's other spells I could be playing around by just going for it right there. Let's see if this resolves. That could affect my blocking decisions. It immediately resolves. They don't even take a moment to think about it, so I think this block should just happen. Yep, this block just happens. Very happy with that. And then a Sojourner. Okay. Shadow Prophecy. I'd normally be pretty unhappy about this, but Tachova makes this actually not a bad thing to see. I think I want an untapped blue source so I can play Tachova and Vortex. So we take the untapped blue. Let's just take the untapped sources. We're pretty good on every color. Oh yeah, and Urg gets bigger too. Phyrexian Rager. It's value. I know I'm at 7 life, but value. Alright, Tachova comes down. We play the island, but we animate a swamp. And then, yeah, we've got the Vortex mana. And Vortex the Sojourner and have plenty of creatures that can block a 3/3 land from Loam Speaker. Samite Herbalist, that's fine. Plenty of chunky blockers against that. Tachova's not fine. Do you have any idea how not cool that Tachova is? It's terrifying. Now I need to hold swamps just to block flyers from my opponent. I think I'm just digging for removal. I'm not a 12. Oh, but I found removal, so you know, sometimes you just have it. I was like, maybe I shouldn't be milling. I'm down pretty low, and I only have like 1 removal spell left in the deck. Immediately hits the 1 removal spell. There you go. That's how you do it. That is how you do it. blasted. They started blasting. Okay. It's kind of cute it made Urg bigger. Because it was a land that died. Alright, they just hit a land off the top. Should pretty much seal the deal here. I'm gonna keep milling myself. A little greedy, but... 2 blockers. Block, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not quite lethal. We lethal them in 2 attacks with the flyers alone, so might as well just send those in. I guess there's no risk of sending Urg in. They could double block and do 3 damage, which doesn't kill it. Yeah, Urg's a big enough attacker. I should have sent Urg in. They have no way to kill Urg there. And then I still would have 4 blockers after that, plus the ability to sack a land and gain 2. Would have been a pretty safe attack. So we are going to get there by the skin of our teeth. The very last possible chance to get a 7-win run there. A 7 and 2. So we played the maximum amount of games of Magic today. And they were some long ones. We got some value out of this event. 2 hours and 42 minutes. Probably a tiny bit less for you all as I edit out the time in between rounds. But yeah, a long draft for you all today and a pretty sick one. Some busted Alchemy cards in this deck. Played with and against some busted Alchemy cards. Played against that Dairy Gas thing twice that exiles dragons with egg counters and plays them out eventually. And then we played against that Slicer that returns a thing from your grave and a thing from your opponent's grave back to hand. That one was also busted. Our busted card, of course, being Slimefoot, a major win condition, and I think at least like half of our victories. I think there are like 4 games we won off of this. All our other victories was like Techiova's, there was a Namada kill, there was a lot of good Bortuk Bone Rattle plays. Everything in the deck did its job, did it well. The Barricades even just showing up as 2/4 blockers was nice sometimes. Just sturdy creatures, but those were the most filler cards in the deck, the worst cards in the deck. Biggest issues, mana was a bit of an issue, but I think we won. I think we won every game where I was stuck on blue mana early game. So it wasn't an issue that cost us any game, but it did happen a few times where I'd have a lot of blue cards and not hit the blue mana till quite later. Yeah, the main game that we lost was against a similar deck. They got a lot of value and curved out pretty quickly. And we had a bunch of big plays, a bunch of huge cards like Namada and stuff, but we just couldn't play them fast enough to stabilize. That was like both of our losses, right? Was that we had multiple like big plays to try to take over the game and get a board stall going, but we just died before we could resolve all of our threats. One of those games was because we didn't draw enough lands. The other one was because our opponent had a bunch of like cheap combat tricks to kill us really early. So the biggest things that could have helped in the games that we lost would have been maybe we run an 18 land deck for this build. I could see that being reasonable when we have cards like Urg that are surveilling and wanting to put lands in our grave, when we have cards like Techiova that want us to landfall every turn, and cards like Slimefoot that want us to landfall every turn. This seems like a pretty reasonable 18 land deck. Maybe we should have been that. Maybe that would have helped win that one game where we did miss that one land drops when we were just trying desperately to cast as many spells as possible and stabilize as quickly as possible. And then for the matchup against the 2-mana 3/2 and the curve out in that deck, maybe I could have played better. I don't think there's anything our deck's really missing that would have helped in that matchup, because we have the cheap removal. We just would have needed to draw it. Draw more of it. Maybe 1 or 2 more Tribute to Urborgs would have been good in that matchup. Being able to hold a trick like Rona's Vortex for just 1 mana up against a combat trick that's attempting to be lethal would have been really impressive. So I don't remember if we just didn't draw them. I think we just didn't draw them. But that's like the best stuff that would have been good against that deck. Having like the ability to spend 3 mana and play a Barricade or a Rager or something, and then have 1 mana up to Rona's Vortex if our opponent goes for like a kicked Colossal Growth. Being able to make plays like that would have helped win that game. So that one's more like, I don't know, there's just cards already in our deck that I think would have been really great in that matchup. I don't think there's too much we could do deck building wise there, but definitely gameplay wise, played some looser games and probably could have found some tighter lines in those losses, and definitely in some of those victories I was noticing some loose plays of my own there. But yeah, other than that, everything in the deck performed. Everything performed great. Everything was awesome. Slimefoot is completely busted. If you get this at any point and you're anywhere near green-black, go for it. This card's absurd. And yeah, cool draft. Fun draft for sure. But that is going to end the video for today. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more in your recommended feeds. I'll be back again tomorrow with our last Dominaria United Alchemy draft, as they're only on for another 20 hours, as you can see over here. And then we'll be playing some more variety drafts in the meantime. Throne of Eldraine is going to be back pretty soon, like 1 week from now. They'll have those premier drafts. That should be cool. And then Crimson Vow quick drafts at the end of the month. So cool stuff there. And then Original Dominaria Sealed is coming back for an arena open. So that should be a really spicy one. So once again, cool stuff on the horizon for drafters and sealed players like myself. And I'll be playing at least a little bit of pretty much all of it. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. As always, once again, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.